All right, good morning and welcome to the Neary Building Committee Communications Subcommittee meeting. It is Thursday, March 27th, 2025. It is 8:02 a.m. First order of business is approval of the March 12th, 2025 meeting minutes. Any questions on those? Seeing none, I'll make a motion to approve the March 12th, 2025 meeting minutes as presented.
Second.
Any further discussion? Roll call vote. Denise?
Aye.
Roger?
Aye.
And I am aye as well. Okay. Next is review and release of FAQs. So I think each of you individually have received questions. I've received questions. I think others are receiving questions. So once we get through how we're going to respond to the current list of questions, I do think we'll have a discussion of how we want to deal with this going forward, but I wanted to follow the process that we had outlined to date for purposes of today. So before we get into the sheet that I used to compile all the questions, there is one question that I think is still in flux that's not on the sheet, and it's just around the action by the prior subcommittee. So prior to the Neary Building Committee of why fifth grade was not considered from a Trotter perspective. So unless either of you disagree, I would like to delegate that response to the administration and just accept whatever they provide. I know they are working on something already, but I think, that was a educational recommendation 4 years ago that was accepted by that subcommittee, that was then presented to the school committee at that time, as well as, a broader group of committees. So is there any objection to that path forward? So whenever they're done, just taking that and using that to answer that question?
No.
No, also no.
Okay. Next item then is actually looking at the two documents that I provided. The first one that is labeled option dash Neary Building Committee. That was drafted by Greg and is really about the options that we looked at. It's essentially a summary and a chart that we've looked at probably a lot of times at this point. So I didn't know if there was any commentary on that before we move to a series of what I'll call unrelated questions.
I have two questions related to this.
Okay.
One, I think we can leave. Good morning, Greg. One, I think we can leave. And it's related to Finn. Okay, right? Again, Finn not being an option on this first 12 because it wasn't, presented to the MSB. I think I can leave that discussion till we get to the second sheet. But what is the difference between 6 and 7? 6 says Neary new build 4 and 5, and 7 says Neary new build, not selected. Are those? What is the difference between those two options? I can't remember.
Greg, you're on mute.
Roger, I don't have it in front of me. Can you look at the enrollment number? Is it the same?
The enrollment number, the enrollment number is different. The enrollment number is 305 for the one that was selected to study further. So I'm presuming that that's the two grades 4 and 5. The next line that says Neary new build has an enrollment of 450. So that must be the one that's 3 to 5.
Yeah, 3 grades.
Okay, so the sheet that we have, I'm not sure where the sheet is going or who's going to use it. We should probably add in that number 7, we should probably say Neary dash new build and then in paren 3 to 5, because the previous one says 4 to 5. Again, maybe if this is just for our information, then
No, this will be posted.
okay.
So I think great call out, Roger. I am gonna propose potentially we just add a key. If that 305 is a 2 grade, then the 450 is a 3 grade and the 610 is a 4 grade. Because it then will ripple through the entire listing.
Are you then saying that, most of these, have in parens the grades, 4 to 5, 3 to 5, 2 to 5, 4 to 5, that's the only one that doesn't have, the grades in paren after it, number 7, Jason, just as FYI, so.
Yeah, no, I hear you. So we can do that too. So yeah, we could put grades 3 to 5, but then I think we can also clarify, even though, you could deduce it by looking at the document, what the grades are.
Makes sense to me. It's just
Okay.
that adding that would make that consistent with everything, and I think the key also makes a lot of sense. All right, so I have nothing else on this.
Okay, Denise, you good on that particular document?
Yeah, the only question I had is, I know that, I think we need to define that there was a research and study committee before the Neary Building Committee was,
She froze.
Formed, yeah, you've frozen, Denise.
I think we understand what you were saying though, right? In terms of just define what decisions were kind of made walking into the Neary Building Committee, because some of those decisions and recommendations to the school committee informed how the district approached its application to the MSBA. Does that make sense, Greg, to you?
Yes, we can provide that in the preamble.
Yeah. Greg,
Yep.
is to sort of Roger's question he asked a couple minutes ago, is your intent that this one becomes an FAQ or becomes like a standalone page?
It's
on
both. It's both. I added it
That's
as an
what I
FAQ.
Okay.
And it's a standalone document.
Okay.
It's two locations. It's under the options studied and then under documents.
Okay. Perfect.
And this was called the Research Study Committee, was that
School Research Subcommittee, yeah.
the School Research Subcommittee? Subcommittee from what committee?
It had a representative from school committee, so your representative was Katura. It had a representative from Capital, that was me. And then I believe Kathy was I think Kathy was representing advisory at the time.
Okay, School Research Study Subcommittee,
Yeah,
okay, thanks.
And it was the capital planning.
yeah, so
Research
the
Subcommittee.
capital planning committee formed it, but we only put one member on it. We wanted
Got it.
obviously, at that time, it was really important to start to build consensus about where we were headed, right? So that's why we had the diversity of the committee.
Thank you.
I think that's a good way to start that, so that you can see there was continuity. So some of the things that were discussed there and were eliminated didn't make its way to the building committee, and I think that's important.
Well,
Yeah.
and I think it potentially feeds into what I want to discuss when we get to number 7, which was kind of my only big problem with a lot of these, because it almost looks like the answer to number 7 is, well, we're not looking at it. Why didn't we look at it? It's because we didn't look at it. I just think maybe we want to kind of think about the wordsmithing on that one. But anyway, I'll let you, back to Jason, sorry.
No, that's fine, Roger. Thank you. All right, so let's go on to the other document. So Roger, you want to talk about number 7? Denise, are there any that you want to talk about?
Number 4.
Okay. Greg or Kathleen, any you want to talk about?
These are the FAQs, Jason.
This is the document labeled NBC Com Subcommittee Questions 32725.
Just I think the finance. Are there any finance questions on there?
There are. So let me take that one, then I'll kind of go in order. So the finance subcommittee is meeting today. They're working on a presentation that they're gonna take the lead in the presentation next week as well, for at least the finance piece of it. So we are going to leverage that. So they're going to vote that this afternoon, and then we'll leverage screenshots of that to answer the finance questions that we're getting. Because yeah, I spoke to Kathy and made sure that she's aware that we're getting a lot and that we want to be able to leverage that document as kind of the sole answer of how we're answering the questions or splicing the data.
So just one other comment around the finance. So we did add a finance tab on our menu option under the Neary building website. And I did add what was published on my Southborough. It was the Neary Elementary School Feasibility Study Options Cost Summary. I can take that down if you want me to, but I thought because it was out there, I thought it was a good document for people to see.
That's on my Southborough, Greg?
It's on our nearybuilding.com website. If you could click on the finance.
Oh,
menu,
yes, yes.
you
Got
click on, you should see the document.
I'm just opening it, yeah, so this was a public document that was provided at the time when we looked at that. I think we'll need to replace it for a few reasons, but I think this is fine for now. One, I think they'll have probably an easier presentation to follow. Two, my understanding is after the meeting with MSBA tomorrow, we're going to know our reimbursement rate, at least of what they're planning to propose to the board. And my understanding is it's not going to be the precise number. We never expected it to be the precise number. So I think that would be a positive as we move forward. But again, we need to hear what that final number is. And then my understanding is the MSBA has also provided comments to the OPM at this point on the 3011. So there will be some tweaks, nothing again material or changing the direction, but I think just in the interest of precision, that will be a discussion. So I'm going to post a meeting actually for Monday night in advance of the finance subcommittee for those that can join, just to understand where that's at. But we can't do that until we have the discussion with the MSBA.
Yeah.
So fluid process, Greg, I think we'll just need to stay in sync with Kathy and in her subcommittee.
So I'll leave that up there, and then as you receive updated slides and information we want posted, I'll replace it.
Perfect.
I'm sorry, Greg, this is under documents?
No, it's under so there are 6 tabs after FAQ. There's finances, it's a finance menu. And if you click on that, Roger, you should see feasibility study options, cost summary.
Mm,
And this is on the nearybuilding.com site.
right, I'm on the site.
It should be about building design, FAQ, finances.
Yes, so it's
Okay.
under that one.
Click on finances.
Oh, the feasibility study cost, yes, all right, I got it, thank you.
All right. So I heard Denise wants to talk about number 4. Roger wants to talk about number 7.
I have a
Kathleen,
quick
did you?
I have a quick one on number 3, if I might.
All right. Well, hang on. I'm just trying to get my population, then I'm going to go in order.
Okay,
Kathleen, do you have any?
No, I'm all set.
Greg, do you have any other than the finance piece?
No, other than the 5th to 6th grade, or 5th grade at Trotter. That's one I'm working on, but
So we've already delegated that responsibility to you
Yes.
before you joined, so you're good on that one. So we'll post that one once you and your team are ready.
it always happens, if you don't get somewhere on time, you end up with responsibilities delegated to you. So
that's why I have a lot of responsibility, because I'm
Just-
never.
Standard process.
All right, Roger, go with number 3.
Okay, so I just have a quick question on number 3. So I'm aware, at least as I understand it, that specific safety characteristics aren't really to be discussed in public.
Right.
Is that,
Correct.
does that, can you confirm that, whoever, isn't that true? That we really
Yeah.
aren't? So do we want to say that in other words, do we want to have I don't know, the first thing saying, although specific safety characteristics are not to be discussed in public, and then go, the building is being designed to, so I'm just
Mhm.
gonna throw that out as a thought and, for people to consider it if they want to.
I have no objection to adding that. Obviously, I was trying to thread a needle with my proposed response to
Understood.
yeah. And so maybe I'll just say that it'll be an executive session. Any further discussion on it?
Well, I think it also, kind of, it kind of gives us a response to people that are saying, well, can you tell me more? Can you tell me specifically what it is you're gonna do? And I think that basically with that caveat at the beginning, you know.
Mhm.
I think, but I
covers
do
it.
think there are a couple areas we can speak to about safety, not necessarily security. So one is the traffic flow. That is something we could speak to, and I'm not sure if it's for that question. And the
Yeah, it's
other
not the question.
is code compliance and fire suppression systems, and
Mhm.
those could be public.
Yeah, this is unrelated.
Okay.
Yeah, this was really in response to that specific question about bulletproof glass, right?
Oh.
Is it bulletproof? So that was my only one on that.
Okay. Denise said number 4, right?
Yeah, you had said that you were gonna insert something, and when you sent the inserts over this morning, I didn't see that one
Because I don't have
from the
it.
architect.
I don't have an answer to that.
On
So
that one,
the
okay,
question is, where will the portable classrooms be
Right.
located?
Mhm.
Greg, I don't know if your team has even had a discussion on that yet.
No.
So I was thinking that that's just a logistical question that the subcommittee really doesn't need to review a response on. So I was just going to send an email to the OPM team, I think is coordinating that more than the architect. See if they have an intended location, make sure the district's okay with that, and then post it. And if the district's not okay or needs more time on it, just say that would be a discussion, for a future state. Does that make sense?
It's accurate.
All right, Denise froze again.
It must be cold. Denise is. Needs to be back.
Okay. Let's go to, so we did 3, we did 4. So number 7, Roger. Do you have a proposed revision or comments, or what do you want to do there? I hear where you're going, just
Yeah, I
basically.
just worry a little bit that when, it's when somebody says, well, why didn't you do this? And we say, well, we didn't do this because we didn't do this. And so is there something we can say about or refer, right, to a previous study or something where we can refer and say, this is why it wasn't part of the district's application. I think the minute we say, well, we aren't looking at it because it wasn't part of the process. Well, why wasn't it part of the process? Is there something we can say to that briefly? Or how about in this meeting? So why wasn't it part of the process? I don't recall the beginning of that.
I'll start. So
Because
I
we
don't
get hit
think
on that a lot.
I don't think, I mean, this was, so I think when we were going through the exploratory stages of all of this, one of the criteria that I think the district looked at was the age of the facility. And while there are certain parts of Finn, as an example, that certainly are as aged or of greater age than Neary, almost all of that building saw a refresh 20 years ago. So I think it was a question of likelihood of receiving funding from the MSBA,
Okay,
given just some of the commentary that they have made throughout the project. And remember, there were site tours conducted by the MSBA of Neary in person before they even welcomed us into the earlier phases as well, that they then, I think, looked around and compared to the other schools in the Commonwealth that they were seeking applications of. But at the same time, we cannot, and I want to be clear and transparent, we cannot guarantee what the MSBA would have said or not said had we included an application for Finn. We also didn't know at that time which school we would be potentially recommending to shut down, if any, right? Because remember, up until August of 2024, we didn't even know that we were going with a 4-grade school. We knew it was certainly an option way back when, but if the committee had voted to explore a 2-grade option back in August as an example, this wouldn't even be a relevant question anymore, right? So it's an iterative process. This is Greg's language from, and it actually appears in the other document too. So when I reviewed it, the one thing I thought about, Roger, is what that most important part to me was that we went back to the MSBA during the process because we were getting questions about it, right? And we were listening, and we said, you're asking us to study potentially options that make no sense. For example, build a new Woodward, right? Just makes no conceptual sense. And so,
Right,
could we add in these other options, right, to better answer questions?
I wonder if we could also, to Denise's earlier point, provide, the school research subcommittee evaluated different options, and as a result, made a recommendation around exploring these. The statement of interest was driven by the school research subcommittee and the statement of interest didn't include Finn because of the work of the school research subcommittee and the school committee's vote.
So I
Well,
think
I like the phrase, even though we couldn't guarantee the likelihood of acceptance, into the program, I think we made a calculated prediction that it wouldn't be, and we only wanted to go with things that would likely be accepted for funding. I mean, that makes sense to me.
right. And I think, one of the things that we, could go back to, there's a few documents, Greg, that I'm thinking about from that, right? There's the final report from that subcommittee, right? That was very public meeting, a lot of really good dialogue. That should be part of this.
Yep.
And I think the other thing that likely needs to be just put out there, right? At some point, we had to make a decision of whether we were going to partner with the MSBA or not, given that the time frame, some of the restrictions as part of their process, some of the things we did, right? And we made a educated decision as a community that the potential benefits far outweighed, some of the cons in terms of the delays and the process, et cetera. So I think we just need to acknowledge that that was a discussion too, because, we then, if we had chosen a different path and we're just bringing forward, I'll call it the town of Southborough's view, and not one that was well vetted through the MSBA, I guarantee we'd be getting the question, well, why are you leaving the state's money on the table that we all pay for on our sales tax?
Just to confirm, was the subcommittee named School Research and Study Subcommittee or School Research Study Subcommittee? Do you recall?
I'll open it. I think it was the school research subcommittee.
The School Research Subcommittee. Okay, got it.
All right, so I think we have our proposed edits there. Yeah, school research subcommittee, Roger.
Thank you.
And it was a subcommittee of the capital planning committee.
It was the Capital Planning Committee. I got it. And
Yes.
I don't know if you're through with all of these, but I do have a one question on 10. I was waiting till you got to it.
Okay. So you comfortable with the revisions to the Fin response, which now would appear in both documents based on this dialogue? That was for you, Roger.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So then number 10.
So the only, I'm sorry, go ahead,
No,
Jason.
go ahead. Floor is yours.
So the only question that I had on 10, and this actually relates to, I'm gonna blame the superintendent for providing me with some information. It's good. The only question I have on this, and I think that I'm actually comfortable with the way it's, well, with what it says, but maybe reverse the order. When we were talking, Greg, you identified that the bulk of the 2% was really for special ed. I forget what we call these funds. Something, I guess.
IDEA grant funding.
IDEA, and that for the most part, that was, we aren't, we believe that's safe. However, having said that, and so I thought for a second, well, do we want to, since we're talking about the 2% in this answer, do we want to identify that further? Okay. But then again, I think the last two sentences from the middle sentence, which says the Neary building project is not proposed to receive any funding from the Department of Education, that seems to be the key sentence. In other words, we're not, when we talk about, we're not talking about an ongoing operating budget here. We're talking.
I'm fine. I actually, I would prefer just to keep it to the building committee, but I know the question that was posed, I think you received that question, was much broader. So I didn't want to, but we could just say from a Neary building committee perspective, this is the answer.
Yeah, I think that's actually a reasonable answer. As some folks know, I have received, emails from friends. I won't mention any names, but who've asked me some questions. And, and again, there was one related to the DOE, but my first reaction was not to discuss it at all. But I think that this middle sentence, it's not going to receive any funding from the DOE. This project has nothing to do with that. I think that's probably enough for this, unless people disagree with that. It sounded like you were going there to that point, Jason. I also want to ask a related question. I think when I answer questions in an email to people I know, I think I should make sure that I say, I'm really, even though I'm on the committee, I'm answering your email as a private citizen. Please avail yourself of the public information on these questions. Is that do you agree with that with that aspect of a response or not? Do you think?
Yeah, so let's I think it's a nice transition into our last agenda item before we wrap up. I don't think we're gonna be able to call a meeting like this every time we get a series of questions, right? These questions that came in within the last 5 days, right? And so I think when in doubt, we should find the part of the website that's responsive to the question. That should be the number one. Here's a link to this part of the page. Undoubtedly, there will be the questions that you get that we do not have covered on the website. I think my proposal would be, one, to notify me that we need to get something up there that's responsive to the request. And two, if you feel it's appropriate, with the caveat you just mentioned that you're responding as one member of the committee, this particular response has not been fully vetted, but here's your view. You can and should do that. I think you run the risk.
I'm just really responding as a citizen. That I happen to be on the committee, and I happen to have gotten a lot of my information from attending public meetings. But I certainly don't want to go out on my own in any reply as this is the committee's position. I just want to stay away from that totally. And I think that people that I would respond to clearly understand that.
Yeah, no, I think that's fine. And I think what I would like to do, unless someone disagrees, is if you believe, I'd like to come up with basically 3 criteria. One, if it's a case of first impression, right, and we have never discussed it at a Neary Building Committee meeting or a comm subcommittee meeting, that should be the reason I call this group together. Right, in terms of if you get a question and it's like, there's a lot of prongs to it that we should talk about, that would be when I call the group together. Point two is, if any one of us receive a question and we know that the data is already out there, we should freely be able to kind of go back and do that. And then, you know, if let's say I received it and I just think we need to put it more boldly out there as an FAQ, we'll do that without calling a subcommittee meeting. Does that make sense? Again, if it's already been discussed and clear what our response is as a committee. The third bullet is anything that's really truly questions on educational policy. I would suggest that we delegate that to the school administration. And if they need, you know, any sort of vetting or assistance in review of that, that Roger be our designee, given he is a school committee member, in that response. Does that make sense? I just want to
Yes.
be,
Works for me.
I think it's critically important that we stay on task, right, with the discussion, but at the same time, speed is unfortunately going to be important here. We can't let things sit for even 48 hours potentially, just to make sure we get the right information out there.
I agree.
Okay. Does anyone have any other business for today then?
I just have a question. When do you think we can direct the people who have asked these questions? When do you think we can direct them to the website that they'll be there?
Within
Given
24 hours.
time restraints and all.
I think within 24 hours.
Okay, thank you.
We'll, once we get the final questions, then we can send out an email when everything's been updated.
Thank you.
All right, I'm going to make a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second,
Any further discussion? All right, roll call vote. Roger,
aye.
Denise,
Aye.
and I am I as well. Have a good day, everyone.
Have a good